Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto has the ice release Chakra, part 6. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Naruto walked away from the trio of soon to be former Oto Gen and Karen beside him, as he left. The blonde shinobi had given the trio one of his spare scrolls, so they were going to head to the tower, ignoring the orders given to them by Orochimaru. The idea of the five heading to the tower together had been floated around, but the blonde had declined, mostly to keep suspicion off his friends until after they had defected, but he also had a couple of things he needed to do. Naruto once more knelt in front of Karen, the red-haired woman jumped on Naruto's back, and the two once more took off into the trees. The two traveled through the trees silently for a moment before Naruto slowed down. "Naruto nai?" questioned Karen, holding on to Naruto tighter. "I should have sent you with them," muttered Naruto, as he stopped on a tree branch. "What do you mean?" asked Karen, confused and somewhat scared. "It means you need to go with my clone to the tower, okay Karen?" spoke Naruto, calmly putting Karen down, as he quickly flipped through hand signs Kori Bunshin no Jutsu, Ice Clone Jutsu, called Naruto, creating an ice clone. Karen looked at Naruto confused, as the clone formed. "I'll meet you at the tower Karen, I promise, but for now I need you to go with my clone," declared Naruto. Karen nodded, and hopped onto the clone's back before the icy clone took off towards the tower, sending one last scared glance back to Naruto, who smiled a reassuring smile, as the girl disappeared into the distance. "I know you're there," spoke Naruto slowly, almost in a growl, his eyes going silver, as he turned around glaring upwards into the trees. "Oh, sense me did you?" spoke a green-haired, gray-eyed man stepping out from behind a tree. "Please, don't flatter yourself. I heard you a minute ago, but I smelt you long before that," declared Naruto, glaring up at the apparent Kiri ninja, if the headband was anything to go by, along with the katana at his side. "Bullshit," snarled the man, apparently not believing Naruto, who rolled his eyes at the arrogance. "So what can I do for you?" questioned Naruto, moving his hand slowly towards Seinukuya. "You can give me my village's sword, or I can take it from your corpse," declared the man with a grin clearly somewhat unhinged. "First of all, it's not your village's sword, you stole it from my clan," said Naruto, ripping the weapon from its sheath, as the Kirinin snarled, and lunged at him, drawing the simple katana. "And even if it was, the Mizukage gave it to my uncle, as payment for helping in the rebellion," declared Naruto, pushing back on his blade, throwing the Kirinin backwards. "Samhata was forged in Kiri, I will take back my village's sword," growling the genin, jumping up, and swinging his blade down on Naruto, who spun to the left, avoiding the strike, and swinging his own blade back at the green-haired Kirinin's midsection. However, as Naruto sliced clean through the man's midsection, a plume of smoke emanated from him, and he was replaced with a log. The instant he sliced through the log, he formed a kunai of ice, and threw it to his left. A solid thunk sound filled the air, as the kunai clearly hit a tree. As Naruto turned to the ice kunai, he saw a thin line of red on the side of the kunai. "Even if by some miracle you beat me, you won't keep her," declared Naruto, looking around the area, looking for the shinobi. "She will get taken from you, and if she's not immediately given back to my clan, which she will be, you won't be the one to wield her," continued Naruto. The nin, apparently angered by Naruto's comment, leapt out from behind his cover, a bushy branch, with a scream of "die." Naruto threw his left hand up, and spun to face his attacker, as a glowing silver chain, with a claw-like tip, shot out of his hand, and closed around Kirinin's neck. "You're a pathetic whiny little baby. I'm surprised you found anyone to teach you how to use a blade," declared Naruto, as the chain retracted, pulling the genin towards him. "Shut up," gasping the genin, glaring at Naruto. When I take Samhata from you, I'll show you, and those bloodline freaks, how to wield a sword," declared the genin, wincing, as the chain tightened around his neck. "You're beyond help," said Naruto, rolling his eyes. "And you're an idiot," declared the genin, as Naruto crushed his neck with the chain, only for the genin to turn into a puddle of water. "I don't think so," declared Naruto, turning around, swinging Seinukuya at neck level, slicing through the genin's neck before he could stab Naruto in the back. Once more the genin turned into a puddle upon being killed, and this time Naruto didn't hear another attack coming. Spreading out his senses, Naruto found that the genin was fleeing. The blonde knew better than to let the green-haired genin go. So Naruto sheathed his blade, and pulled his bow off his back, and began chasing the genin through the canopies. As Naruto ran, he used his free hand to form 3 ice arrows. Each, however, appeared to have something almost carved into the top, each one different. Notching the first one, as he pushed a large amount of chakra to his legs to leap further towards the fleeing genin. Naruto let the arrow fly mid-leap, shooting forwards at tremendous speed, missing the genin by mere centimeters. "You miss," yelled the genin, glancing back at Naruto to taunt him. However, this was a bad move on his part, as the ice arrow exploded in front of him, creating a web of ice. The ice was easily smashed through, but not without slowing down the fleeing genin, and leaving him with scratches from the ice shattering. Naruto leapt perfectly through the hole in the ice web, notching the second arrow, as he did. Landing before instantly kicking off the tree he landed on with a large amount of force, Naruto once again flew into the air, letting the second of his arrows fly from his weapon. This time the arrow didn't even appear to be aiming for the fleeing genin, and in truth it wasn't. As the second arrow flew, the head on the weapon got substantially larger, turning into a wedge shape almost like an axe head. The axe-headed arrow slammed into a tree branch, embedding itself more than halfway through the branch, and the gray-eyed fleeing genin could do nothing but go wide-eyed as he slammed down onto the branch, snapping it and tumbling to the forest floor, rolling as he landed, trying to minimize any damage to himself. However, that didn't stop him from slamming back first into a tree trunk. Flipping himself over, the Kiri genin was about to jump to his feet when an arrow pierced his chest, specifically his heart. However, the arrow wasn't made of ice. Naruto immediately turned around, notching his third arrow, and fired it back into the trees behind him. However, a huge rock was thrown at the arrow, which pierced the rock and exploded, causing small stones to rain down on the area. "Hello, you four," said Naruto calmly, narrowing his still silver eyes. Now in front of him, on tree branches above him, stood three people with Odo headbands. The first was a large man with orange hair and a face that was too small for his head. The second was a light blue-haired man with what appeared to be a second head behind his main head. Finally, the third was a six-armed man with his hair tied into a fanned-out ponytail, clearly the one who had killed the Kiri genin, as he was holding a bow in one of his hands. "It's been a long time, Naruto," said the two-headed man with an arrogant smirk. "Not long enough, Seiken, not by a long shot," replied Naruto, maintaining his glare at the trio. "So I take it Orochimaru sent you four after me," spoke Naruto, crossing his arms as he did so. "Then he did, so time to die, traitor," declared the six-armed man. "You three can't beat me," scoffed Naruto, quickly swapping his bow for Seiken. "That may have been the case 3.5 years ago, but things changed," declared the fat man, launching himself from the tree branch towards Naruto. Slamming his fist into the branch Naruto stood on, shattering the wood. Naruto, however, had already leapt from the branch upwards into a hail of arrows. "Futon Tapa, wind-style great breakthrough," called Naruto, performing half-hand signs before a huge gust of wind emanated from him, knocking all of the arrows off course. However, before Naruto could relax, a blur came flying at him. The blur, it turned out, was Seiken with two left hands attempting to punch the blonde, who threw a hand back, and a glowing chain burst forth flying into a tree, and in an instant, began to draw Naruto towards it, avoiding the double punch coming his way. "Gotcha now," growled at the tubby sound Nin, lunging at Naruto. The blonde kicked off the tree, throwing his knee forwards into the orange-haired man's chin, knocking him back. However, Naruto wasn't done. As he landed, he kicked off the tree again, flipping over his former ally, swinging his blade down, and slamming it into the man's back. The orange-haired Nin could only scream, as same Mikuya sunk into his flesh. As Naruto landed, he ripped his blade out, causing the Nin to fall to his knees. However, Naruto couldn't take a second, as once more he had to avoid a punch from Seiken. Catching the man's fist with one hand, Naruto quickly brought his elbow up to block the second fist flying his way. With his opponent at his mercy, Naruto kicked Seiken in the shin, forcing him to one knee. Using that knee as a step, Naruto jumped up and kicked Seiken's head to the side. Rolling in the air, Naruto then used his other foot to slam the blue-haired Nin's head into the tree, causing him to grunt in pain. "That's it, you punk," roared the fat man, glaring at Naruto, as chains of triangles began to flood across his body. Naruto, sensing Kidomaru notching another flurry of arrows, quickly ran at Jirobo, who charged at him, the curse mark covering a good portion of his body. As Naruto got close to the man, he quickly dropped to the branch, sliding on the moss through Jirobo's legs, avoiding the man's attempt to grab him in the process. Digging into the moss, Naruto kicked off the branch, jumping onto Jirobo's back, forcing the mark Nin to his knees. Naruto kicked off the man's back, forming several ice kunai, which he promptly threw at Kidomaru. The spider-like Odo Nin rolled to the side, avoiding the ice kunai, as Naruto fell back to the branch between Jirobo and Seiken. Naruto landed and rolled forward straight into Seiken's fist. Naruto fell back, realizing Seiken too had marks spreading across his body. However, he had little time to contemplate it, as he was yanked backwards by the neck of his shirt. "You little shit, time to die," declared Jirobo, slamming his fist into Naruto's stomach, making the blonde wince in pain. As Jirobo wound up for another punch, Naruto swung forwards, kicking the fat man in the chin again, jarring himself loose from the man's grip. Naruto leapt up into the air to get away from Jirobo and Seiken. However, as he did, his highly trained hearing picked up on the twang of a bow, and Naruto realized his mistake. Arrows flew through the air, piercing Naruto's body, thankfully none in lethal places, but all in painful places. Naruto fell further than the branches he had been fighting on. With a little luck, he managed to land on a lower branch with a thud. "Things change, Uzumaki. At one point you were one of Orochimaru's elite, but now we hold that title. We are part of the Sound 4, taunting Seiken, jumping down to the branch Naruto found himself on. "Don't make me laugh," coughed Naruto, spitting out a glob of blood. "The only reason you have that is because I left," declared Naruto. "Orochimaru had his elite team, me, Kamimuro, and Teiaya. When I left, you three were brought in to bring the team back up to the strength it had been at while I was there," taunting Naruto. "Well, I think we have proven that we are more than a match for you," declared Seiken, walking up to Naruto. "You think so?" questioned Naruto smirking. Because you seem to be forgetting something, continued Naruto. And what's that? Asked Seiken, almost rolling his eyes. I was one of Orochimaru's best. You think he didn't give me a curse mark? Questioned Naruto, as an eerie red glow pulsed on his back before lines began spreading across his tattooed skin. As the marks flowed across Naruto's skin, Seiken jumped back from the blonde before he and the other Odo shinobi allowed their own marks to spread all across their skin, turning it a red-brown color, as the three of them turned demonic, their teeth becoming sharp, and each of them growing horns. Naruto, upon seeing this, smirked. Stage 2 right out the gate, I like it, declared Naruto, sounding somewhat unhinged, as the marks on his skin too covered the rest of his skin, darkening it. However, while Naruto did grow a pair of horns on his head, the more interesting growth was at the base of his spine. As a fox-like tail sprouted from his tailbone, blonde fur, and all. Let's see how you handle this, spoke Naruto with a smirk before throwing his unoccupied right hand out to the side, and a demonic-looking katana appeared in a puff of smoke. The pitch-black blade was quickly tossed into the air behind Naruto, as he began to charge the Odo shinobi. Jirobo leapt from his perch towards Naruto, throwing his fist at the blonde. Naruto, however, brought his Sumenikuya up to block the punch. Fist collided with metal. Jirobo looked to be pushing Naruto back, if only just. Naruto pushed back on his blade, making sure Jirobo was pushing as hard as he could before the blonde quickly stepped to the side and allowed the large man to fall forwards to Naruto's left. What no one was expecting was for Jirobo to scream in pain as he was once again sliced by a blade, but not Sumenikuya. Naruto, using his tail, flicked blood off the blade of his demonic katana. Seiken and Kidomaru were shocked at what they saw, but knowing what they did about Orochimaru and his curse marks, they shouldn't have been, as Naruto's tail swung the second blade, as if it were a third arm. Naruto once more smirked, looking at the two Odo shinobi. Come on then, taunted Naruto. Kidomaru quickly notched several more arrows, as Seiken ran at the blonde. Naruto smirked, breaking into a run at Seiken. The blonde shinobi quickly sidestepped, as arrows began to hail down on him, and, as he looked to Seiken, the blonde wasn't shocked, as the man seemingly split into two identical clones, only lacking the second head. Finally joining the Yukon party, said Naruto, as he ran. Naruto avoided another arrow, as he swung Sumenikuya at Seiken, who jumped up trying to avoid the strike, Yukon taking advantage of Naruto's focus on his brother to move to attack the blonde. However, neither brother counted on the shadows around Naruto shooting out of the ground, one part looking like a clawed hand slapped Seiken in the face in mid-air, making him spin. Yukon, on the other hand, had to jump to the side, as a spear-like construct shot out of Naruto's shadow. However, he wasn't fast enough to dodge, as more spears shot out of the original long line of shadow. Yukon, screamed Seiken, looking at his brother who was speared by shadows, and fell to his knees, blood oozing from his mouth. Kidomaru once more shot an arrow at the seemingly distracted Naruto, hoping whatever was going on with the shadows wouldn't protect the blonde. The spider-like man's hopes were raised, as no shadow moved to protect Naruto. However, it was Naruto himself who screwed up Kidomaru's plan by snatching the arrow out of the air. Kido-chan, you haven't forgotten who it was that taught you archery, have you? Mocked Naruto. You son of a bitch, snarled Seiken, charging at Naruto, attempting to avenge his brother. The red-haired blonde spun to face the red-skinned white-haired Odo shinobi, before using the arrow he had in hand as a spear, and shoving it through Seiken's shoulder, pushing him back before spinning around. While he spun, Naruto used his blade-wielding tail to slice in half an inch into Seiken's chest all the way across. With the second of the two brothers dealt with, Naruto turned to Kidomaru, who the instant Naruto turned to him let loose 5 arrows. Once more Naruto brought Sumenikuya up to block the projectiles. Kidomaru was already notching another quintet of arrows. As Naruto brought his blade down to look back at the Odo shinobi, Naruto shot a chakra chain out of his free hand into the ground. As Kidomaru let fly the volley of arrows, Naruto jumped to the side, avoiding the arrows. Before Kidomaru could notch any more arrows, he let out a scream, as he felt intense pain in his leg. Looking down, he saw a glowing kunai piercing his leg. Suddenly Kidomaru was yanked off his feet by the kunai in his leg, and was spun around. Screaming, as the kunai did more and more damage, he was flying through the air, no longer attached to the kunai. Kidomaru could do nothing to right himself in the air, as blood poured out of his leg. Naruto, however, wasn't done with the Odo nin, as once more shadows began to bend to his will. As Kidomaru flew past Naruto, the blonde sent out a spike of shadow towards Kidomaru. The shadow lined up with Kidomaru's right arms, and unable to do anything, the Odo nin flew past it, the shadow blade slicing clean through Kidomaru's 3 right arms. Kidomaru would have screamed in pain had he not blacked out from the shock. Naruto stood up, relaxing somewhat, as he looked at the area around him. Screamed Jirobo, as he descended on Naruto with both of his hands together, to slam them into the now alerted blonde. How many times do I have to make it clear you can't match me, Jirobo? Questioned Naruto, as he brought his blade held by his tail up, and a stickman rose out of Naruto's shadow, and threw his claw-like hands forwards. Jirobo's chest was pierced in 11 different places, Naruto stepping back, as the fat man fell to his knees, still conscious, but only because of the curse mark. If you're going to kill us, just get it over with, coughed Seiken. Kill you? questioned Naruto, almost insulted by the idea. No, I would never kill you for, continued Naruto, confusing the conscious members of the sound team. That would be the easy out for you. No, I will leave you for to crawl back to Orochimaru, and leave you to tell him that you failed him, declared Naruto with a sinister smirk, jumping off into the trees, before he could see the looks of horror on the faces of the sound nin. As Naruto put enough distance between him and the sound 4, he stopped, stabbing the sword held by his tail into the tree branch he was standing on, before allowing the curse mark to recede. Naruto grit his teeth as the mark receded, falling to his knees once it had. Naruto groaned as he pushed himself up. That still hurts, muttered Naruto to himself. You know it hurts, and yet you willingly chose to use the mark, rather than say my chakra, berated the white-haired kitsune sealed within him. Those 4 needed to be knocked down a peg or 10, declared Naruto, pushing himself to his feet. Besides, I thought you were asleep, and I won't take chakra from you if you are asleep, continued Naruto. I wasn't asleep, so you could have asked, said Biju. Like I said, I thought you were asleep. You hadn't said anything to me for a couple of hours. That usually means you're asleep, spoke Naruto, picking up the demonic katana with his right hand, and with a poof of smoke the weapon was gone, just as it had come. Well, I wasn't, declared Akane, apparently irritated. Naruto decided against inquiring about the Biju's agitation, instead spreading out his senses looking for 3 people in particular. Within a minute he had found them, and set off in their direction. The blonde almost wanted to punch himself for what he was about to do, but continued on anyway. Hopping from tree to tree, he spread his senses out again looking for Orochimaru, hoping the Sannin was nowhere near. While Naruto was confident in his skills, he was certain at this point in time he couldn't beat his former sensei. The man was stronger than him by enough of a margin. He needed a couple of years yet to catch up. Naruto thankfully couldn't sense the white-skinned man, as he drew close to where he was headed. Coming to a stop, Naruto landed on a branch about 50 meters off the ground on the edge of a clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a rather large broken tree stump, which appeared to be hollow. Quickly and carefully Naruto made his way to the ground. He could see traps littering the ground around the hollowed-out tree. Naruto quickly froze the water in the air, forming a kunai which he flung at one of the traps, specifically slicing through a piece of wire which, upon being severed, let 2 heavy logs swing free, slamming together a foot above the split wire. The 2 logs hitting each other created a loud crash, alerting at least one of the people within the hollowed-out tree. Naruto watched as a swirl-cheeked brown-haired chubby boy appeared at the entrance of the tree, holding a pair of kunai in hand. I don't care, if you are Konoha shinobi, you attack us, and I will fight back, declared the boy. Well then, good thing I'm not here to fight, said Naruto. Choji, right? Questioned the blonde looking at the other Konoha genin. That's right, what do you want? Questioned Choji. Which scroll do you guys have? Asked Naruto. Earth, why? Spoke Choji, confused. Naruto smiled quickly, reaching into his pouch, and pulling out a heaven scroll. Here, get yourselves to the tower, ordered Naruto, tossing the scroll to Choji. His business with the team concluded, thankfully without having to talk to the Uchiha. Naruto quickly took once more to the trees. Several hours later. It was a decent trek to the tower in the middle of the forest, but Naruto had made it without running into any more teams shockingly. Upon reaching the tower, the blonde found Karen waiting outside. Naruto Nai, called Karen, running over to the blonde, tackle hugging him. Naruto caught the girl, and hugged her. I told you I would meet you here, declared Naruto with a smile. Doesn't mean I'm not allowed to worry, replied the red-haired girl, punching his chest. I've only just found a family. I can't lose you, not even knowing you for a day, continued Karen. Naruto snickered, rolling his eyes at the girl. Come on then, we can head inside now, spoke Naruto with a smile. Karen nodded, following Naruto inside. Upon stepping inside Naruto, Karen both saw a tablet on the wall. With only a cursory glance, Naruto opened both scrolls, tossing them to the ground when they started to smoke, and drawing Same Nikuya, Karen quickly ducking behind Naruto upon seeing him draw his sword. The smoke cloud grew in size until an almost popping sound went off, a sound Naruto was familiar with. It was a summon. Naruto sheathed his sword, as he felt the chakra signature in the smoke. Hello sensei, said Naruto plainly. Hello Naruto, good job on passing the 4th stage, replied Kakashi with a nice smile. Did you make a friend in the forest, Naruto? Questioned the elder shinobi upon seeing the still cowering Karen. Yes, was Naruto's simple answer. Naruto stood with the rest of the passing genin, all 24 of them. They all stood in a large open room at the bottom of the tower within the Forest of Death. Alright everyone, I would like to congratulate every one of you for passing the 4th stage of the exams. However, I must disappoint you all by informing you that there are still far too many of you in the competition, declared Hiruzen. Please cough cough, Hokage-sama allowed me, asked a sickly-looking person next to the age cage, getting a nod from the man. Hello everyone, I am cough cough Hey Jekko, the proctor for the final stage cough cough of the exams, and, as Hokage-sama cough 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 said, there are still too many of you cough 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 here. So we must have a preliminary round cough cough. So if any of you feel you cannot continue, please cough say so now, and keep in mind that from here cough cough these exams are no longer a team effort, declared Hade. I don't think I can go on anymore, spoke a white-haired Konohinin raising his hand. Hey noted the name down before nodding to the boy who turned around and left. Naruto glared at Kabuto as he walked away before looking at the Hokage and flipped through Anbu hand seals. Anyone cough else? Asked Hay. When no other hands were raised, the man turned around and a panel rose upwards revealing a giant screen. This screen will display the random cough matchups that these preliminaries will consist of. The matchups could be 1v cough 1 or 2v2 cough. You may be paired up with your best friend, your greatest enemy, or someone you may not know, declared Hay before names flashed on screen quickly. An instant later 4 names flashed up onto the screen. Could all bar Naruto Uzumaki, Dosu Kinta, Yoroi Akato, and Misumi Tsurugi please head up to the balconies above? Asked Hay before everyone, but those mentioned walked up the stairs. Well, this is interesting, said Misumi, smirking beneath his mask. This'll be an easy win, declared Yoroi. Dosu glared at the man, and was about to rush him, when a hand landed on his shoulder. He's baiting you, don't fall for it, said Naruto. Dosu turned his head, so he was looking at Naruto out of the corner of his eye before nodding. Well, this should be fun. It has been a while since we fought side by side. Hey Naruto, spoke Dosu, turning fully to face the blonde who responded by smirking. Naruto's left hand became covered by an icy mist, just as Dosu's right hand began to hum. Everyone else in the room had wide eyes from Dosu's comment, excluding Kin, Zaku, their sensei, and Hiruzen. Well, it looks like cough both parties are ready, stated Hayate, recovering from his shock. Begin his call, jumping away. Naruto drew his blade from his back with a free hand, just as Yoroi began running at him, and Dosu with Misumi following closely behind his teammate. Ampanami, Sonic Wave, called Dosu, channeling chakra through his arm, unleashing it in a straight line at his 2 opponents, both of whom jumped out of the path of the wave, Yoroi jumping left, and Misumi jumping right. As Yoroi landed, he was immediately sliced in 2 by Naruto, and his huge blade, however to no one's shock, Yoroi exploded into smoke, revealing instead a roughly sliced log, jagged edges all along the cut. The second Kawarimi substitution was revealed. Naruto turned, flipping through one-handed hand signs. Hyutin Kwai Sure Snow, Ice Release Ice Slicer Jutsu, called Naruto, as the water in the air around him froze into discs that instantly flew at Yoroi. Yoroi tried to jump to the side to avoid the discs, but the discs still hit their mark, cutting him half a centimeter deep on his right side, his left leg, and the right side of his neck. Dosu rushed at Misumi, chaining punches and kicks. Misumi however dodged, ducked, and weaved in and out of the punches, avoiding them all, until Dosu landed a solid punch, slamming his fist into Misumi's stomach, pushing him back. However, before Dosu could pull his fist back, Misumi grabbed his arm, dislocating his own arm to wrap it around Dosu's. Misumi smirked, thinking he had Dosu in a tight spot, only for the Oto Genin to smirk in return, before jumping off his feet and using Misumi's dislocated arm to swing through the Genin's legs. Once Dosu was through Misumi's legs, he yanked his arm back, pulling Misumi off his feet, flipping him over before slamming his palm into Misumi's chest. Kamaisen, vibrating sound drill, called Dosu, his arm vibrating on the down Misumi. The silver-haired Genin spasmed, as Dosu's attack did its damage, coughing up blood, as Dosu stopped his attack, getting up. Naruto once more ran at Yoroi, frost hanging around his free hand. In an instant a kunai of ice formed, and a second later it was flying through the air towards Yoroi. The Genin blocked the weapon with a kunai of his own. The next instant Naruto was descending upon Yoroi blade first. Yoroi jumped back to avoid the attack before jumping back at Naruto, slamming his hand onto Naruto's forehead. Naruto actually signed the act. If you plan on trying to make me give up by stealing my chakra, we could be here a week, and you still wouldn't make any headway, declared Naruto, not the slightest bit affected by the insignificant drain on his chakra. Before Yoroi could do anything, Naruto grabbed the man by the wrist and wrenched the limb from his forehead, before using it to pull Yoroi in and knee him in the stomach. Yoroi winced in pain as Naruto pulled his leg back. After removing his knee from his opponent, Naruto flipped the man over his head and slammed him into the ground. Both Misumi and Yoroi pushed themselves to their feet as Naruto and Dosu both moved towards the center of the arena. As the two Konoha Genin managed to stand tall, they both began to flip through hand signs. Kaiten Dikakyu no Jutsu, Fire-style Fireball Jutsu, called Yoroi, spewing out a fireball towards Naruto and Dosu. Futon Tatapa, Wind-style Great Breakthrough, yelled Misumi a moment later, slamming his hands together, sending out a wave of wind absorbing and enhancing the fireball, the flames going from red to blue headed towards Naruto and Dosu. As the giant fireball flew at Naruto and Dosu, the red-haired blonde stepped in front of Dosu, slamming Same Mikuya into the ground, before holding his right hand out towards the fireball. Naruto screamed to Karen and Fuu as the ball of blue flames hit Naruto's hand, or at least it appeared to. However, the second it did, a huge Ryujutsu matrix spewed forth from Naruto's hand. The rune-like symbols were big enough that the fireball was blocked by them. Naruto raised his left hand and pointed it back at Yoroi and Misumi, and a second Ryujutsu matrix spiraled out from his left hand. A moment later, the blue fireball seemingly dispersed as it hit the first matrix. However, Naruto began wincing, and a distinct blue line traveled up his right arm and beneath his shirt, closing his right hand. As the fireball fully vanished along with the first Fuinjutsu matrix, the blue line found itself on Naruto's left side, creeping down his left arm to his hand, and, as the line met Naruto's hand, he tensed up, as the blue fireball emerged from the second Fuinjutsu matrix. Almost everyone watching was wide-eyed, as the same fireball Naruto had seemingly absorbed was shot back out at the two Konoha genin. Naruto dropped to one knee, gulping down air, as the fireball left his hand. Misumi and Yoroi only just managed to regain their composure and leap out of the way as their fireball came back at them. Seeing Naruto on one knee, the two quickly ran at the blonde, thinking they could take him out. Yet, as they drew closer to Naruto, Dosu jumped in front of the blonde with a high kick, slamming his foot into Yoroi's face, throwing the genin back, and using the momentum from his kick, Dosu spun around, slamming his melody arm hand into Misumi's face. Ampanami, Sonic Wave, called Dosu, gripping Misumi's face tightly as his arm began to hum. A second later, the room was filled with Misumi's muffled screams as the Sonic Wave ripped through his head. Blood began pouring down Dog's arm. The mummified genin let go of Misumi's face, dropping the dead genin unceremoniously to the ground. Dosu turned back to Naruto, reaching out to the still down blonde with his bloody hand. Taking one more deep breath, Naruto grabbed Dosu's outstretched arm, the Odo genin, pulling his friend to his feet. "He's mine," said Naruto, as he stood tall. It wasn't a request. As such, Dosu simply nodded and stepped back, allowing Naruto the floor, knowing he would use Yoroi to wipe it. Everyone looked on as Naruto stepped forwards, but didn't take Suminakuya from the ground. Instead, he brought his left hand up, forming half a tiger sign, and held his right hand as if holding a katana. And with a flare of chakra, the water in the air around Naruto's hand froze, forming a hilt which a blade seemingly sprouted out of. Once his weapon had formed, threw his left hand to the side, a meter-long length of glowing chain shooting out of it. As he did, with his ice blade in hand, Naruto ran forwards, throwing his chained hand forwards, the glowing chain shooting towards Yoroi. The genin leapt to the side to avoid the chain, however this was what Naruto was hoping for. Kicking off the ground, Naruto shot forwards, a speed not many had seen of the genin. Using his ice blade, he sliced Yoroi from waist to shoulder, the clean slice at least an inch deep, before kicking him backwards. The purple-clothed genin slammed into the wall behind him, creating spider-web-like cracks from the impact. Yet before any blood could begin oozing from the large open wound, Naruto used his chain to loop around Yoroi's neck, pinning him to the wall. An instant later, Naruto was once more upon Yoroi, frozen blade in hand, and he went berserk, slicing Yoroi repeatedly shoulder to hip, across the midsection, cutting the arms, shoulders, legs. After Naruto stopped, blood poured from the wounds. It seemed almost impossible that Yoroi was even still alive, but the Konoha ninja were shocked as Naruto stepped forwards once more and fixed that problem. By one swift slice, Naruto cut clean through Yoroi's neck. For a second it looked like Naruto hadn't done anything, but after a moment a very clear red line formed across Yoroi's neck, and his head began sliding to the left, before falling to the ground, blood splattering from the now lifeless head. It took a moment for anyone to snap out of their various stupors. Heiei jumped back to the arena. "Winners, Naruto Uzumaki and Dosu Kinta," called Heiei. But the call made Naruto turn to Dosu, nodding before both genin made their way towards the steps up to the balconies on opposite sides of the room. As he made his way up the stairs, Naruto locked eyes with the Hokage once more, and again started making Anbu hand seals. "Would Gaara no Sabaku and Rock Lee please come down here?" ordered Heiei. "Winner Gaara no Sabaku," declared Heiei, looking at the destruction the two genin caused in the arena. Looking to the Hokage for instructions, the old man stood. "With the arena destroyed, we will take a 5-minute break for repairs," declared the old man. Naruto walked down the stairs, deciding to take a short walk into the forest to get some fresh air. "Uzumaki, can I have a word?" called a voice, stopping him dead in his tracks. Turning around, Naruto saw that it was the proctor for the previous stage, Anko, who called out to him, shrugging, as he moved over to her, as she led him away from the arena. "She had been watching you since the end of your match. She might have figured out it was you who helped her," declared the voice of a cane from within Naruto. The young ice-wielding shinobi mentally shrugged. It's not like he had been hiding it. Within a few moments the two were on the roof of the tower, and were looking out over the forest and its deadly creatures. "It's so peaceful here, don't you think?" questioned Anko. "Yeah, it's quite peaceful out here," replied Naruto, looking out over the forest before turning back to Anko. "But I'm sure that's not why you brought me here," continued Naruto with a knowing look. "You're right, I didn't bring you here to show you the view. I came here to relax myself when I ask you something," declared Anko, looking very nervous. "Whatever it is, Anko-san, just ask it. I won't judge you," said Naruto with a reassuring smile. Anko closed her eyes and took a deep breath, not sure why she was so nervous. "You showed off quite the skill set in your match. You seem to know your Fuinjutsu," spoke Anko gingerly. "Yes, it's one of my best skills. I have trained very hard with it," declared Naruto proudly. "I was just wondering if you know anything about curse marks," questioned Anko, not getting directly to the point she was trying for. "Why? Do you have one on you you'd like removed?" asked Naruto. Anko shook her head. No, that's the thing, I had one, but after a night of getting drunk someone saved me from a pair of rapists, and then removed the mark, said Anko. So you're trying to find this person? Questioned Naruto, getting a nod from Anko. I have talked to everyone in the village who knows Fuinjutsu, and they all tell me that they have had nothing to do with it, said Anko. Why are you trying to find this person? Asked Naruto. Stop torturing her, Naruto, she is obviously uncomfortable talking about the mark, just tell her it was you, berated Akane from within Naruto's mind. I just want to thank them, they removed such a burden from my shoulders, said Anko. The two stood in silence for a moment, Anko looking at Naruto, who slowly closed his eyes before nodding. It was me, but I didn't save you or remove that mark for thanks, Anko-san. Hence why I took you to the hospital, and didn't stick around. I saved you, because I hate rapists, and I removed the mark, because I recognized it, as an evil mark, declared Naruto, looking over the railing out at the forest, Anko looking at him shocked. Once more silence overcame the two. Anko looked at Naruto, before looking once more out over the forest, before she spoke again. I made a promise to myself about that mark, you know. I promised myself that if it ever got removed I would thank the person who did it in any way they wanted, be it treating them to a meal, giving them as much money they wanted, or even my body for a night. Is there anything you want from me, as a thanks? Asked Anko looking down at Naruto. No, Anko-san, seeing you smiling is enough of a thanks, said Naruto, smiling at the woman who smiled at him, rolling her eyes. She's a line kid, spoke Anko with a smirk and a small shake of her head. Naruto smiled, winking at Anko. Anyway, I should head back. The 5-minute break is surely up by now, declared Naruto before turning around and walking back towards the door. Thank you, Naruto, spoke Anko softly, as the blonde himself stepped back into the building. Naruto dawdled back down the stairs to the arena. By the time he got there the next match had started. Ino vs Sakura. Naruto almost wanted to roll his eyes at the match. Sakura was running at Ino as fast as she could, barely faster than an asthmatic 5-year-old with a sleeping drug in their system, with her fist cocked back. Ino sidestepped the punch, grabbing Sakura's arm as she threw herself past Ino. The platinum blonde then slammed her elbow into the back of Sakura's neck, knocking the pink-haired woman forwards. You bitch, screeched Sakura, stopping herself from being thrown into the ground, before spinning around and once again running at Ino. I finally see how pathetic you are, Sakura, spoke Ino harshly, as she backhanded Sakura, causing the pink-haired Kunoichi to spin around Ino, who barely moved from her starting position. You slut, how dare you call me pathetic, yelled Sakura, pulling a kunai out of her pouch before running at Ino. How dare I? No, Sakura, how dare you even call yourself a Kunoichi? I bet you haven't trained so much as an hour since you left the academy, began Ino, grabbing Sakura by the wrist she was holding the kunai in, forcing the weapon out of her hand. Not that you trained there anyway, you diet so you don't get fat. Any reasonable Kunoichi would eat what you do in a week, in a day, and still be as skinny as you, declared Ino, pulling Sakura forwards by her wrist, throwing her forwards into her waiting arm, clotheslining the pink-haired banshee. Because of that you don't have any muscle, so any taijutsu you do actually use is pathetically weak. Not that you do any taijutsu simply relying on everyone else to save you, continued Ino, as Sakura dragged herself to her feet. You bitch, screamed Sakura, running at Ino again. However, this time Ino herself ran forwards, easily 10 times, as fast as Sakura, sliding along the ground, using Chakra to coat her legs to slide, using one arm to catch Sakura's feet. As Ino slid past, she kicked off the ground, still with her arm wrapped around Sakura's legs, before slamming her free hand into Sakura's back, slamming her into ground face first, cracking the floor a little. Consider any friendship we may have still had over, spat Ino, beginning to walk away from the clearly unconscious Sakura. Winner Ino Yamanaka, called Hade. Naruto watched as Sakura's sensei, Kurenai Yuhi, if he remembered correctly, sighed, walking down the stairs, picking her unconscious student up before sunshining to the hospital. Naruto used the opportunity to once again climb the stairs to the balconies above the arena, noting that the randomizer was running while he did, to declare the next matchup. Nicely done, Ino, said Naruto, as Ino moved past him. Thanks, Naruto, replied Ino, stepping around her blonde teammate and taking a seat next to her team. Kachino Abiram, Fuzumaki Kinsuchi, and Za Saku Abumi, please come down here, ordered Hade. Naruto smirked, as the 4 requested nin descended to the ground floor. The blonde knew that the fight could go either way, and was intrigued by the match, and who would actually emerge victorious. Are all combatants ready? Questioned Hade, as the 4 young shinobis stood in ready stances in the arena. Yes, confirmed Zaku, bringing his arms up ready to attack. Let's go, agreed Kin, narrowing her eyes, as she reached towards her weapons pouch. Ready, declared Fu, bringing her hands together to begin molding her chakra. Shino said nothing, but nodded to the proctor, as small bugs began to emerge from his skin. Begin, called Hei before jumping backwards. Zanka, decapitating airwaves, called Zaku, pointing his hands at Shino, and Fu sending out a wave of air the second the match started. Fu leapt in front of Shino, as she flipped through a short chain of hand signs. Kitchen Yoroi, kite in armor, called Fu, bringing her arms up into a cross formation in front of her, as her normally matcha-colored skin turned a dark blue just as the air wave hit. Fu stood strong against the wave, as it pushed her back a few inches, but nothing more, not even a nick on her arms. However, as she dropped her arms to the side, they returned to their normal matcha hue. Kin threw a handful at the ground around Fu. "You miss," commented Fu with a smirk. However, Kin matched Fu's smirk with her own immediately, setting the green-haired girl on edge. However, she couldn't concentrate on Kin for long as Zaku began to run forwards. Shino ran off towards the side, throwing a pair of kunai towards Kin, but she nimbly dodged, before plucking the wire attached to her thrown needles, making bells chime. Zaku smirked as he went to punch Fu, knowing that the green-haired girl would be under his teammates. However, as he went to punch the stationary Fu, she smirked before delivering a powerful uppercut to the young man's jaw, knocking him skywards. "Impossible, you should be under my..." growled Kin, once again plucking at the wires on her, making the bells chime. However, this time Fu ran straight at the girl with a kunai in hand. Leaping into the air, Fu descended upon Kin, who quickly drew a kunai of her own to defend against the falling Kinoichi. "Sorry, but I can't be put under many," declared Fu with a smirk. "Well then," replied Kin with a smirk, pushing Fu back before jumping back, twitching her hand before it became engulfed in smoke. Zaku, recovering from the punch to his chin, ran towards Shino, who quickly jumped back from the oncoming enemy Nin, and threw his arms forwards, sending out a swarm of bugs. Zaku stopped dead in his tracks before jumping backwards, and quickly going through hand signs. Kaiten Hananami, fire-style flame wave, called Zaku, shooting a wave of flame out from the tubes in his hands towards the bugs. The swarm of bugs split in two, flying above and below the wave. As Shino spun to the side to avoid the attack, Zaku used the repositioning to his advantage, and ran towards Shino, avoiding the bugs as best he could. As Zaku drew close to Shino, he twitched his hand, creating a cloud of smoke around it. However, a short, straight, glimmering silver blade pierced the cloud of smoke headed towards Shino. However, the cloaked Konoha shinobi followed Zaku's lead, twitching his hand before, in a cloud of smoke, a wooden bow staff appeared in his hands to block the Tanto blade. In Kin's hands appeared a katana that appeared to be thicker than most, with holes along the back of the weapon. "It's been a while since I've used this," muttered Kin to herself, swinging the blade around Fu, noting a distinct whistling sound from the blade. The matcha-skinned Konoha genin narrowed her eyes before once more running forwards, once more her kunai at the ready. Kin ran forward, swinging her blade overhead, the whistling once more to be heard. Fu, however, paid it no mind, as she brought her kunai upwards to block the blade. Shino brought his staff around to smack Zaku's side. The Odo shinobi winced, pulling his blade back before jumping backwards upon seeing his teammate in a blade lock with Fu. The Tanto-wielding shinobi quickly drew a kunai and threw it towards Fu. Fu heard the kunai coming and jumped back from Kin, landing beside Shino. Zaku moved beside his teammate, and once more the two pairs stood opposite each other. Kin and Zaku both ran forwards. Shino and Fu braced for the incoming attacks, Shino sending out a huge swarm of bugs, Fu stepping forwards, flipping through a chain of hand signs. Kitchen Yoroi, kite in armor, called Fu, brings her arms up, crossing them to protect herself and Shino. Kin kicked off the ground, leaping above Zaku, swinging her blade in seemingly random ways. Odo Hahinerukire, sound blade bouncing slice, called Kin, waves of chakra coming flying out of her sword towards Fu and Shino. Fu braced to take the attack head on. However, as the waves of chakra drew close to her, they bounced over her head, hitting Shino behind her. "Shino-kun," said Fu, shocked to turn to her teammate, only for Zaku to slam his fist into her stomach, throwing Fu backwards into Shino. Kin and Zaku stood smirking, looking at their opponents, who both slowly pushed themselves to their feet. The four narrowed eyes at each other, as Shino and Fu used the wall behind them to get back to their feet. Shino and Fu glanced at each other before nodding ever so slightly. "Rinpin, scale powder," called Fu, quickly flips through hand signs before breathing out a large cloud of bright powder. Both Kin and Zaku had to avert their eyes from the powder. Using this to his advantage, Shino once more quickly sent out a swarm of bugs towards their opponents. However, unlike the times before, his bugs landed on Kin and Zaku and began stealing their chakra. As the two sound-in began losing their chakra, they tried to get rid of the bugs on them. As they did, however, they failed to notice Fu moving on them. "Mahisasu, paralytic sting," called Fu, appearing between Zaku and Kin as she jabbed her hands into their sides. The two Odo ninja fell to the side from the strike. As Fu jumped away, they tried to get up and continue the fight, but slowly found themselves unable to move at all. Seemingly, as all mobility left them, Shino called back his insects from the two who were still unable to move. "Winners Shino and Fu," declared Hade with a cough as he appeared back on the arena floor, seeing the two Odo nin were in no shape to continue the fight. Naruto looked at his teammates as they walked back up to the balcony, before glancing back at his friends as they were taken away by the medic nin. "Well done, you two," congratulated Naruto, smiling at Fu and Shino as they passed him. Shino nodded to his friend, while Fu blushed a little at the praise and grinned at her adoptive brother. "Well, cough Sasuke Uchiha and Sujetsu Izuki came down, please," and instructed Hade. Naruto watched as the arrogant Uchiha and the white-haired boy who sat next to him in the first test moved from their teams towards the ground floor. The blonde ice-wielding Konoha shinobi allowed his mind to wander as the match began, keeping an eye on the match in case anything interesting happened, but not holding his breath. Both ninja were skilled, but nothing that worried the blonde. The match was vaguely curious, as the Uchiha didn't use any ninjutsu, and the Kairin refrained from ninjutsu, relying on his skill with the katana. After a boring 5 minutes of little skill shown, the Uchiha managed to pull out a victory. However, once the match was over, the Uchiha fell to the floor seemingly exhausted. Hiruzen glanced at Kakashi before nodding towards the Uchiha. Kakashi nodded to the Hokage before sun shining down to the Uchiha, speaking with him for a moment before the both of them vanished in a swirl of leaves. The next match wasn't anything to write home about either. Temari Sabaku of Suna and Tenten Higurashi of Konoha versus Kankuro Sabaku of Suna and Kiba Inuzuka of Konoha. While the two Suna ninja fighting styles were somewhat interesting, Naruto had seen both before, and Tenten's weapon style was intriguing, though it was more just differently shaped kunai than actual weapon-based combat. The following match was a master display of teamwork, Inara and Inakamichi versus the last two people of the Mist team. While the two Konoha nin had better teamwork, the two Kairin nin had more skill and strength, so it was no surprise that they won. Naruto, however, did note that one of the two last Kairin nin was a young Yuki clansman. The final match was well ugly. There was one word to describe it: two Hyuga, one from the main branch and one from the side branch, with the side branch member easily dominating the main branch member. However, once the match was clearly over, the branch member moved to attack the main house daughter. Not many people saw them move, but in an instant the Konoha sensei appeared around the two Hyuga. However, what surprised people was the fact that Naruto appeared behind the branch member with his blade at his neck. Once again the main house gets special treatment, muttered the boy. There's a difference between special treatment and stopping you from killing an already defeated opponent, declared Naruto, narrowing his eyes glaring at the older Hyuga. With a scoff the boy lowered his hands, taking that his compliance let go of the boy, as he moved away from the female Hyuga. As the female Hyuga was taken away to the medical bay, they fell back to their teams. Would the winners please come down, ordered Hade, looking up to the balconies above. Naruto stayed where he was, as the other winners calmly walked down the stairs. With this the preliminary round was done, declared Hade, as Anko walked towards the genin with a box in hand. In the box that Anko is now bringing around are numbers. Each of you will take a number, and those numbers will determine the matches for the final round, continued Hade. Once you have your number please let us know, so we can draw up the matches, finished Hade, as Anko made her way to the genin. I have one, declared Ichi. 12, said Tenten, bouncing slightly in excitement. I got 5, said one of the Kairin slightly nervously. I have 8, continued the second Kairin. 6, declared the female Sunanin. 3, was the monotone response from the other Sunanin. 10, came the calm reply of Shino. I got 11, exclaimed Ino. I have 4, muttered Fu. 11, said Dosu. 2, declared Naruto. Which leaves the Uchiha with 7, spoke Anko, taking the last number out of the box. Alright, that means for the first round we have Naruto Uzumaki versus Niji Hyuga, Gaara no Sabaku versus Fu Uzumaki, Chijiro Shio versus Temari no Sabaku, Sasuke Uchiha versus Hakuyuki, Dosu Kinta versus Shino Apuram, and finally Ino Yamanaka versus Tenten Higurashi, listed off Hade. You each have shown your skills here today. You have the name of your opponent. You each have a month to recover and improve yourselves before the finals. Dismiss Hiruzen. With that the various sensei approached their teams to brief him. Alright, you lot take the rest of the day off to rest up, and we will meet at the usual training ground tomorrow to go over what will happen this month, declared Kakashi, as Naruto, Shino, Ino, and Fu approached him. The genin all nodded before Kakashi vanished in a swirl of leaves. Uzumaki, called Anko, as the blonde turned to leave, causing him to stop. Fu looked at Naruto with a worried look on her face. Head on home Fu, I shouldn't be too long, declared Naruto, getting a cautious nod from Fu before she continued on her way. What can I do for you, Anko-chan? Asked Naruto, as he turned back to the approaching purple-haired Kunoichi. Even if you said you don't want anything from me for removing the mark, I feel I need to thank you in some way, so lunch on me, declared Anko. Naruto smiled, shaking his head a bit. You're not going to let this go, are you? Asked Naruto, looking at the woman. Nope, came Anko's reply with a grinning face, as she placed her hand on his shoulder, and the two vanished in a swirl of leaves. Konoha Market District. Naruto and Anko appeared right outside a dango shop. Anko turned to Naruto expecting to see him at least a little sick, but no, he was looking perfectly normal. I've been able to go to Shunshin for years. Sorry to disappoint you, Anko-chan, said Naruto with a smirk. TSK, such a disappointment, Naruto-kun, said Anko with an over-exaggerated sigh before walking into the store, Naruto following behind. Oh, hello Anko-chan, I was wondering when I'd see you today. Brought a friend I see, said the man behind the counter. Not just any friend of Ren, this is the guy who removed the curse mark. This is Naruto, spoke Anko, making the man now identified, as Ren's eyes widened in surprise. Well Gaki, I would say thanks, but I'm guessing what's why you and Enko are here? Questioned the man. Well, she wouldn't accept that I didn't want to thank, so here we are, replied Naruto with a grin. Because of what you did for Enko, yours and her stuff is in the house, said Ren with a grin, causing Enko's eyes to sparkle. So what'll it be, Naruto? Asked Ren. Enko pouted at Ren. I know what you'll have, so I'm asking him what he wants, Enko, said Ren, rolling his eyes at Enko's actions. I'm not really the biggest dango eater, so whatever's good, said Naruto, shrugging, getting a nod from Ren as he set about filling the orders. A moment later, Ren handed 2 bags over the counter, one larger one to Enko, and the other to Naruto. Have a good day, you two, said Ren, as Enko and Naruto walked out of the building. Thanks, Ren, said Enko, as the door closed behind her and Naruto. So anywhere you want to go? Asked Enko. Well, you showed me a relaxing place, let me show you mine, said Naruto, walking over to her. Putting a hand on her shoulder, the two vanished in a swirl of snow. On top of the Hokage monument, Naruto and Enko appeared in a swirl of snow atop the mountain, looking out over the village. Wow, this place is beautiful, said Enko, looking down at the village she called her home, before she began digging into her dango. Yeah, this place is great, the view is beautiful, not many people even come up here, so it's quiet and good for clearing my head, even if I do have some bad memories associated with this place, spoke Naruto. Bad memories? Questioned Enko, looking at Naruto. I got chased a lot when I was younger, the village hates me, the civilians think I'm the Kyuubi, and the ninja don't care either way, said Naruto with a sigh. Enko was looking at him in shock. What happened when you got chased? Asked Enko. It depends if I got away or not, more often than not I got caught, and attacked, ranging from a couple of bruises to being beaten within an inch of my life, said Naruto. Enko looked at him terrified. How can you say that with a straight face? Actually, more to the point, how are you even sane? Asked Enko. Well, I left the village when I was 6, and traveled the world. I met people who saw me for me, even some who saw me as family. Even if there's only a handful of people like that in the whole world, it's enough for me, said Naruto with a smile. Well, Naruto, you can add me to that list of people who see you for you, said Enko with a grin. Naruto just smiled. Thank you, Enko, said Naruto with a soft smile. No problem, Naruto, replied Enko. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then, sayonara.